Right. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. We are live. Well, hello, everybody. Good morning. We're going to be coming live today, Monday, kicking off the week. We won't be here on Thursday, just so you all know. We're going to go get some development. We've got to grow. Time to grow again. So we won't be here on Thursday. So today is our show for the week, America's Mom and the Mister. But man, we have an incredible guest for you guys, back by popular demand. And we'll introduce him in just a minute. I want everybody hitting the share button. Remember, share to your stories. Share to your stories. And then you should be able to share to your page today. It shouldn't be completely disruptive of the Facebook anti-truth algorithm. But I mean, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. We'll have to see. But welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Sacrifices started early.
Huh.
The demonic left is in full swing.
Yeah, let's just do some blood sacrifice. Why not? We're in was it where is that held? Is that in Hollywood? I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
I probably. I'm gonna guess so. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, but if it is, I mean, Hollywood, we kind of talked about that last time. Oh, that'd be a great question for our guest today.
Oh,
If
that's
he
a great
knows
question.
about the word Hollywood, I'm sure he
Hmm.
would enlighten us on that because
Yes.
he is a much into word magic. But why not cast some spells? We're doing Grammys. I didn't know Grammys. I don't know about this stuff till you hear about it the next day or you see things on it, little clips here and there. Because I
Yes.
don't care. Who cares? Except I guess 13-year-old girls or whatever care about this stuff. I don't know who cares about it. I don't want to watch it. I want nothing to do with it. But of course, you look at what's happening and why not? Why not go up
Yes.
there and sing a song about vampires and sucking blood out of humans, all the while rubbing what looks to be blood all over your face and your body.
It
It's some new phenomenon. Singer, well, I don't even know what her name is.
Poor
Somebody
little
they've
girl.
grabbed hold of. Oh yeah, she's toast. I mean,
I
they're gonna turn her into some demonic. Before you know it, she'll be as bad as Taylor Swift.
well, I do want to say her name because a lot of little girls are following her, and parents need to know when your children are watching this stuff, you should know what they're watching. And this little gal, Georgina something. Hang on. Oh, I totally got that wrong. Olivia Rodrigo. Olivia
Olivia
Rodrigo is the
Rodrigo.
newest
There
to
you
be
go.
inducted into the Satanic Grammys here, performing her hit Vampire. And if you guys did miss it, the walls start excreting blood in mass. She begins as a 20-year-old female in a red dress. She looks like the epitome of the sacrificial virgin that we've all seen like on the horror films. That's how she's dressed, is what she looks like. And then all of a sudden, from somewhere, she gets blood. I don't know even now. I didn't watch it, but starts smearing it all over herself. So Olivia Rodrigo, I know she's all over the Hollywood reels and Entertainment Tonight and everything. So she made her induction last night.
Yeah,
You
and
know who else cleaned up?
are we surprised? It's
Yeah,
I mean, it's just laughable at this time. And if people
yeah.
are still actually following the Grammys, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're so out of touch with what's actually going on.
I'm
It's just sad.
yeah. You know who cleaned up really well last night?
I don't know.
Was his name Killer Mike?
Oh, yes, yes, I did know about that.
Yeah,
And
Killer
what happened to
Mike.
him? What happened to him?
Well, Killer Mike made the mistake of going on Bill Maher and not knowing he was black and that he could only vote for Joe Biden. So he said he would not be endorsing Joe Biden. So he was promptly arrested after winning, I think, two or three Grammys last night, and
Yeah,
for
and that was just
misdemeanors.
a few days before that is when
Yeah,
he said he wasn't going to support racist Joe or Beijing Joe or
yeah,
aging Joe, whatever you want to
yeah.
call it, that
Hmm.
character. And then he gets arrested for we don't know what. And apparently, as of just a little bit ago, I looked it up and he's sort of MIA. So
That's
that's kind
it.
of interesting.
Yeah, re-education camps time.
Hey,
Re-education camp time.
can I show you something? Just I mean, speaking of like I don't know, satanic rituals and weird, crazy things. Let me show you this. This is I'm
I don't know. I'm scared. Oh,
You know what that is?
no.
That's a picture of an ant magnified many, many times. That's an ant's face.
Are you serious? I knew
I'm
they
not,
were from the pit.
well, you've gotten bit by so
Wow.
many in Texas. Like I'm going to show
Yes.
you that that's what's biting you. And I looked this up, and apparently it's true. This is an actual picture. It won some sort of picture award.
Wow.
They did some very high tech. They had some high tech camera, magnified it, and those are the little things that harass you when you're trying to sit on your lawn and
Mhm.
having a picnic. Look at that thing. If
Wow,
that's
that
not
is
from the pits of
disturbing.
hell, I don't know what is.
That is disturbing right there. That is disturbing. So that's an ant. Yep, definitely from the pit. If anybody's wondering, mosquitoes, ants. I just got bit by one the other day in my shoe in the middle of winter. It crawled in my shoe and bit me. I was just like, what is wrong with you? A million other places they could be, but they love to climb in your shoes and surprise you.
And you guys need
I'll
to
say that.
definitely just real quick share this out,
Hmm.
because here in just a few minutes we're going to bring Jason Christoff on the program. He's just a cool character, and we're going to have something. We promise we're going to have something that's going to offend everybody today. He's very good at offending people, and so of
We
course
don't want anybody to feel
that's kind of
alone.
our gift too, especially
We
yours, I
try.
think.
We
We
try.
try
We
to offend as many
definitely
people
try.
as we can. So we're going to have guests on that offend people as well. But yeah,
The
share this
truth.
out, please. And then, it's going to be interesting because we're going to ask him some questions about upcoming events like the
Yes.
Super Bowl,
Yeah.
Super Bowl, Super
Lots of
Bowl.
great information we're going to have today to make us critically think about things. So get ready to be outside of your norm. Get ready to get out of your box. Get ready to just think about things, or be willing to think about things that normally would just cause you to shut down and say, no
Right.
way, I have cognitive dissonance over this particular issue. One of the major issues people tend to have cognitive dissonance over, we're going to talk to Jason about too, is this whole Taylor Swift thing that's going on. We're
Oh
going to talk
boy.
about that today because since 2018, it really isn't a conspiracy. Since 2018, she agreed to be the poster child for the Democrat Party to start pushing LGBTQ. If you haven't seen her video, Calm Down, you need to calm down. That video, I'm probably not even saying the right title because I frankly don't care. I don't listen to her music. You do need to go watch the video. Christian parents out there who are buying Taylor Swift for your kids and your daughters and promoting it and supporting it and can't wait to go to the next tour and all of that, the Dead Poets tour coming up. You need to go and watch her video. You need to know what these people think of you. And if you're still okay with it after that, you want to buy their stuff and you want to give them their money and you want to help support the decline and the degradation of America, then by all means do that. But we're trying to get out of cognitive dissonance. We're trying to get out of just going along with what everybody else thinks is cool and calming down about things that we actually should be really stirred up about. We should be really indignant about and care a lot about because other countries have already fallen into the trap that America is sinking into right now. And they are suffering massively for it. I was listening to Diary of a CEO, of course. I was listening to that podcast, and they had the relationship expert on there. It was just such a great interview, by the way. And he said in London, every year, listen to this, you guys. Every year they take a picture of the third grade class, and so that they can see what the future of London is going to look like. They've been doing this for like a decade, and because of massive immigration and the letting down of religion and what is a family, LGBTQ, all this kind of stuff. The future of London will have almost little to no, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, there will be no white people, none. They've allowed for all of this immigration, this illegal immigration to come in and swarm their culture and their people, and there will be no white people.
Yep.
It's so weird. I don't really know what to think about that, but that's a lot what's being propagated. Multiculturalism means no culture. It means
Yeah.
the absence of culture.
Well,
So
and
it's interesting.
there's studies done on, I mean, this is just in general. This doesn't have to do with race so much or multiculturalism, but there've been studies done on societies, and it's 2.1 or 2.2, I can't remember which, when families when they start having less than, we just say two
2.1. It's
on
less than
average. I think it's
2.1.
2.1 children per
Mm-hmm.
household, which obviously averages out. When they have less than that, society, I think within a generation, basically diminishes. It's gone. And there's
Well,
many now.
yeah.
I think Japan is one of them. Italy, for sure.
London, or England.
London, yep. And so they're weeding out borders, language, and culture, or they're trying to. You know, the WEF and all of the players involved, all the global players involved are weeding out culture from all of, I mean, you go to, what is European culture now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is American culture? And they're weeding it out, and people aren't having families anymore. And so really the simplicity of it is this: when the family dies, the nation dies. That's what's happening. And the degradation of the family, of course, the family has been so cultural in the West, and it has been, it has to be in every culture, right? But family is so important. It has been historically. And then they're trying to get rid of that. And if you look at some of the articles, another psyop, we might call it, is about, you know, and even commercials now, about how amazing it is to not have children. It's so cool to not have kids and to not have responsibility. And here's where you interviewed a 30-year-old couple that doesn't have kids, and they talk about the freedoms they have in their life. It's so pathetic what they're doing, but and it's obvious now too. I mean, they're just showing their hand.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. And no family, no culture equals no nation. And then now they're blatantly taking down the borders. I mean, what do we expect to happen? Which, can I play this real quick? I want to get your thoughts on this before we bring. Is our guest in the waiting room yet?
Oh yeah, he's been there patiently waiting.
Oh well, you know what? Let's invite him in. We'll play something a little later about Colorado.
Awesome.
And we'll go that route. But
hey, before we bring him in, I just want to point out I'm drinking my electrolytes. Those of you who've jumped on the America First bandwagon, mylibertybox.com/mom, proud sponsor of our show today for America's Mom and the Mister. Go visit, switch your spending from CCP, take the shares back, guys, give it back to America, promote your own country, our freedoms, our liberties, our culture that we're back to creating again, and also get all of your electrolytes. Love it. The stuff is amazing.
Yes.
So, all right, you ready? Here we go.
Let's do this.
All right. So great to have him back in again, sharing total wordsmithing with us today. Works with people, obviously, to get over nonsense, get on with life.
Yeah.
And really maximize.
Self-sabotage coach.
Yep. Yes. Self-sabotage coach. How many of you guys know people who do that?
I've never known any other self-sabotage coach except for Jason Christoff.
Well, yeah, great. Jason Christoff, thank you so much. Welcome to America's Mom and the Mister. Thank you for joining us again. Last time was a massive hit. So glad to have you on here with us.
Yeah. And
you're very welcome.
Well, I was just going to say, last time we only offended a few people, and we promised today that we would bring something to offend everybody. So bring it today.
Help us out.
Yeah, please help us out with that. We made a promise. We want you to help us keep it.
That's right.
I try to keep that to a minimum wherever I go. Try to keep it calm and keep it peaceful. Just try and get the education across. But yeah, sometimes you will offend people's very delicate sensibilities.
Yeah. Well, to get us kind of rolling, can I play this? It's just about a minute-long video, just as a reminder to people. And I want to get your take on this, Jason, and we can kind of springboard from here. But just kind of get your take on this and to remind folks of the game that is being played all around us. We talk about psyops a lot, and we talk about numbers and words and things like that, which you're an expert at. But let me play this. This was at the beginning of the so-called COVID, and here we go right here.
We have 33 confirmed positive tests.
We have 33 Pennsylvanians who have tested positive for
COVID-19.
Today we have 33 cases.
There were 33 new cases.
The state of Minnesota today reported 33 new COVID-19 related deaths.
There are 33 confirmed cases in Arkansas.
That's the largest single-day increase so far, raising the total to 33.
33.
There were 33 confirmed cases in North Carolina.
33.
There was 33 everywhere.
Yes.
I think that was Red Team Go. I think 33 is like Red Team Go. Everybody goes, okay, let's do it. It's time.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, there's like literally 1,000 33s and 33 new cases. 33 people died in fucking Hong Kong.
The number 33, we all know what that represents. Everywhere, every single day, it was like, well, 12 more cases, which now brings the state to 33.
Yes.
We had 33
Yes.
cases today.
Yes.
We had 11 cases.
Okay, we'll stop there. But
Wow.
Jason, what's your take on that? Is this a game that they're playing with us, or what's going on here?
Well, it is one of their primary symbols, and the 3 really, in my mind, in my research, represents, if you look at it, if you sort of turn the 3 around, and even if you were to go to an elevator and look at the 3, it looks like an E. Okay, and they're very famous. The E for them represents the electricity. There are 4 earth elements in the in this realm, and then there's something called the magical 5th element. You remember the movie with Bruce
Yep.
Willis and Juliette Lewis? I think she was in it as well. It's called the 5th element. The 5th element is a description in our ancient past of anything that affects the physical reality without being seen. Like they could see that the moon was in the sky, but they could not see the forces holding it up there. So they would say this is the magical 5th element. It's a force that acts on reality that's invisible to the naked eye. They would see that the tides would move like this. So it's basically controlling physical reality without being seen. And this is why they have sort of the double E, the double electricity. They're in control of the invisible, and they will have an effect on physical reality. They will move, puppeteer you, and sort of handle you in any way they want, but you won't be able to see it with your eyes. So it's more of like they're going to mind control you. A lot of people, if you were to try to force people to go out and participate in a medical experiment, and if they sent the goon squads, kicked open your door, grabbed you, grabbed your wife, grabbed your kids, you would resist. So they control you invisibly through what they call mind control and propaganda, where you open your door voluntarily. You go to your car, you get in your car, you turn on your car, you take the day off work to travel to the medical experiment. You wait patiently in line. And this is all done invisibly, sort of the same force. So basically when they flash the 33, they're basically saying that they're going to control reality through an invisible mechanisms, which is mind control, because you're doing it to yourself, and they've actually set up the mind control, but you don't see it, you just follow through with it. Hope that makes some sense. It means the double E, the double 5th element.
Yeah, and it makes sense that I think within their rules, so to speak, or their boundaries, whatever it is, they have to have voluntary or willing participants. And so like within that, they're in, like you said, they're inviting us into this. And it makes me think, which is something we wanted to bring up, with this huge debacle, I would call it, but the craze and the worship of a certain pop star. I hate to even mention this entity's name, but we'll do it, with Taylor Swift and the Superbowl. It's like people are, I mean, it's almost like they're willingly, I don't want to say selling their souls, but it's like she's got people under a trance or whatever this entity is. I don't know what it is. And this whole football craze, the Super Bowl thing and all that. And there's signs and symbols everywhere. I mean, even at the Grammys last night and all that stuff. But what's your take on that as we kind of, are seeing this craze going on, just mania around this?
I think it would be hard for the average person to wrap their head around what's really going on. But what I would say is you want to focus first on even this game called the Super Bowl. There is no bowl involved. There's the Lombardi Trophy. It has no bowl. And then say like our Stanley Cup, as a Canadian, we have the hockey championship in the NHL. It's called the Stanley Cup. And people drink out of the Stanley Cup. The average person doesn't understand that in ancient times, there would be a battle between two sides, and then the winner would excise the heart of the loser, and then they would drink the blood out of the bowl. And this is so it's sort of a big sacrificial ritual. And this is why it's called the Super Bowl. And the average person doesn't even know that there is no bowl involved whatsoever in the Super Bowl, but it reflects basically this creeping of the old world and all the mental insanity that happened in the old world. You see it making its way into the new world. And one way is to call it the Super Bowl. And yeah, and even that's why Canadian hockey players, when they win the Stanley Cup, they will drink out of the cup. This is still done to this very day. And this is also why on Valentine's Day, the sign for Valentine's, and it's very close around this time of year where they have the Super Bowl, where the heart goes, there's an arrow goes through the heart. Why would that represent? And even the person that would excise the heart of the loser, he was called the augur. And this is where we get the word inauguration from. And we see the creeping of this very mentally defective old world into our modern time. And we can't shake this old cult, this 33 cult. And it's the same cult that likes the 33, that likes different sacrificial rituals. And they're also energy magicians. And I don't know if you want me to discuss. So it's sort of like there's a power that the human eye gives objects that it looks at. And humans mimic, copy, and emulate the most repetitive sort of content of their environment. So there's a lot of repetitive content, always orchestrated and choreographed in the Super Bowl halftime show. People don't even, I know the halftime show used to be sponsored by Pepsi, and now it's sponsored by Apple Music. And again, we have the biblical apple, the tree, I think it was the tree of knowledge, and there was a sin committed. So we have all these symbols that really can act on the subconscious mind. And even Pepsi's named after the Greek, the Egyptian god of the dead was called Apep or Apop. He was the ancient deity that would sort of sail the dead across sort of their interpretation of the river Hades into the afterworld. And so that's where we get our phrase pop from. That's where we get our phrase Pepsi from. And if you turn the word Pepsi upside down and look at it in a mirror, it spells is dead. And people don't even realize what's going on here. And even the symbol of Pepsi is this red, white, and blue symbol. It's actually the sort of eye potentially of a serpent. And even the barber's pole that you see in the average American small town today, red, white, and blue, these are old Egyptian storefront colors. It's the same pole. And they would do a lot of black magic and barb the body. That's why they're called barbers. They would draw blood and do a whole bunch of ancient black magic blood rituals. So Pepsi's not clean either. And Pepsi used to, as a company, would experiment with a flavor enhancer called Sinomix. Mix, a mix of sin. And it was, they didn't use it directly in the product, but they would experiment with it in the flavor enhancement sort of research lab, but it is derived from aborted fetal cells.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
there's
that's
all
really
kinds of weird
fascinating that
things
you bring that
going
up.
on there.
That's
Can
really
I
quick
interrupt for a
before
second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I want to ask about what you're saying. Let me ask you, is ignorance going to be a justification for not understanding this stuff? Is it only once we realize and we're hearing these words from you and we're going, oh, okay, we have knowledge now? Is that when it affects us? Or to the ignorant, is this really, how is it affecting them if they don't even know about it? What's the worst that can be happening to people participating and watching the Super Bowl? You know, a lot of people just like, we just want to watch the game. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, I think they would get basically the worst thing that can happen is you have all, like if you were exposed to Pepsi for a very long time. If anybody's has drank Pepsi, it's something that's a poison that's not fit for a maggot to consume. And because of the repetitive content, I mean, just the proven mind control alone, anything that's repetitive becomes normalized. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to get Pepsi normalized or Pizza Hut normalized, or you're going to participate in the false idols, the dolls for the eyes, which is Usher and whoever else is going on there today, you're going to be giving your attention to people that produce no benefit for the society whatsoever. And even watching the game, if everybody just spent the same 6 or 7 hours, and it's almost like it's a ritual, it's a sacrificial ritual on its own in reality, because most people are poisoning themselves by their own hand. Again, if they were to show up and hold you down and pour some beer down your throat, alcohol is proven to cause cancer. It's proven to cause brain damage, and it's proven to lessen your life in any amount. Every time you do drink alcohol, you're dying a little faster than you should naturally. And that's a death ritual in itself. And you're doing it to yourself, wasting time, poisoning yourself, ending your life early, and basically not applying the same amount of time or energy to your dying country. Because the U.S. is under massive attack right now. It's falling apart at the seams. Everything from Kensington Street in Philadelphia to, 10 cities in Oakland. There's a lot better use of an American's time or Americans' money than watching grown men play sports. And don't forget, grown men didn't play sports to the late 1800s. And because men were basically supposed to be out there leading. And when we get all the strong men dressing up in tights and not taking care of business in real time, we actually extract the strongest males from the society and sort of sterilize them or make them impotent to solving our problems. I mean, these are the strongest men in our society. They should be facing down the very miniature Anthony Fauci's of our land to put some group pressure on them. But if we can employ the strongest men to dress up in tights and play ball games reserved for children, we can actually weaken the population into a very easy form of compliance. Hope that makes some sense.
Wow. I was going to mention for everyone out there that doesn't know about Pepsi and what you were referencing there, because I went down a little rabbit hole with that just recently, but the Obama Security and Exchange Commission ruled that their use of aborted fetal remains in their research and development for flavor, to produce flavor enhancer, like you mentioned, they ruled that in 2012 that was under ordinary business operations. And then I did a whole list. When we think of Pepsi, we think of just the pop Pepsi, but there's a whole huge list of products that falls under that, most of which you'll find at Walmart and in the grocery store, in those center aisles in the packaged and processed foods that contain aborted fetal tissue for flavor enhancer. So, and it's interesting too, because that's one of the things that we've encouraged folks to do. We're not the epitome of health, but we've definitely been down some crazy health journeys, and we've improved our health over the last number of years. I'm like, if you could start with just one thing to get kind of out from under the medical matrix and this system that we're in, just stop drinking pop of any kind. Like that would be a great start, wouldn't it? Like just start there with that one baby step. But even that in and of itself, it's amazing how attached people are to their Mountain Dew and their Pepsi. And to me, it's got to be something more than physical, because they've been playing this commercial game and this advertisement game for years and years. We were watching it when we were young enough to even remember, too young to remember. We were seeing the commercials, and it seems like there's something more going on with the words they use, the advertisement, maybe the word magic, like you're an expert in getting us to consume things that are killing us, like you're saying, whether it's mental, spiritual, physical.
It's definitely mental. And again, the repetitive content is judged by the subconscious mind pathway. So you have a subconscious that loves you. It wants you to be safe. And it loves repetitive content because it assumes the repetitive content represents the bigger herd. And if you act, talk, and think like the bigger herd, you're safer. So all the repetitive content of Pepsi or Coca-Cola or junk food is very high, and that basically drives your subconscious. I mean, basically, your subconscious controls your conscious behavior and makes you drink the Pepsi in order to bond with the repetitive content, which is supposed to reflect the bigger herd. So if you ask someone to quit pop or someone decides to quit pop, you're actually challenging the genetic safety signals they're getting from the environment. You're actually asking them to be unsafe inside a nervous system that's designed to make you safe. So anytime you ask someone to do something that is in the minority inside that person's particular environment, even if it's their TV environment, you're actually asking them to engage in non-safe protocol. That's why it's so hard to do. Like someone who drinks coffee, and coffee is the most frequent image in all Hollywood film, hands down, not even close. And they do it so that you sort of drift, have a magnetic affinity toward coffee. And then even when you see that it's destroying yourself, like I know one of my business partners, the coffee is going to kill him at probably 45 or 50 years old. He can't stop it. He's not chemically addicted to coffee. It does give him some energy, but he's watched so much media. His subconscious said, you got to do this to be safe. Everybody's a coffee drinker because he's seen so many movies, and this part of the brain doesn't know the difference between real life, imagined thought, or what's on the screen. And it's literally counted every coffee cup, every coffee mug, every coffee shop, and every coffee machine on the back counter of a kitchen in all of media, and it ranks in the millions of repetitions. He can't quit because basically his body says, you can't quit. You're going to be attacked by the tribe. You're going to be in such a severe minority. They're going to throw you in the sacrificial volcano, what is what they do to all minority members of any tribe. So he can't quit. It's going to kill him. And this is what happened in this psychological manipulation that I talk about, manipulating the repetitive content. I spoke in the European Union in Brussels on this exact fact. I went to the Romanian Parliament, and I'm speaking at CPAC as well in Washington, D.C., giving the presentation on the people controlling us controlled the repetitive content of our media, sent us home because it's best to train animals in isolation. Ask a horse trainer, ask a dog trainer. We weren't sent home because there was any threat. There was no 2 weeks to flatten the curve because any threat. 2 weeks at home with your TV by yourself with no counter narrative of anybody at the gym telling it's you liarrhea. The subconscious is getting drowned in similar repetitive content to the point where you think there is no thinking in this part of the brain. It can't think. It wants you to be safe. It doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to be safe. So all the repetition about masks came in, all the repetition about a virus. Everything won't be the same until we get the jibby jab. And then everybody goes out with that program, living out the repetitive content as their safety system is designed to do. Same thing in the Super Bowl. There will be subtle and not so subtle repetitive content throughout the commercials, throughout the halftime show. And I'll guarantee my reputation that there will be some tip of the hat to some Egyptology or Egyptian references, because the people who understand this magic, the fifth element, controlling the humans, having 10,000 humans control 8 billion, they do hark back all the way to Egypt. That's why the American flag is red, white, and blue, because it's the same colors as Egyptian royalty.
I have a question for you that is absolutely fascinating. And I have a question for you. Being a coach, you work with people who are, self-sabotagers, and you try to get them out of that practice. When you look back at COVID, and you see the people who stood principle, didn't cave in, didn't give in to the rhetoric, seem to call it out right away. In your practice, from your understanding of working with so many people, what's the difference? What is it? Is it just something that they are genetically, predisposed to be that way, to question everything, to, kind of be obstinate? Or is it learned? Like, what was the difference between those people who just comply and fall in line and those who say, wait a minute, critical thinking, and they're assessing the situation?
It's usually fear and pain inside their childhood that matured them to an adult. See, in psychology, for a person to make the rite of passage from a child brain to an adult brain, like a child brain only thinks 5, 10, and 15 minutes down the road, I'll eat the whole bag of Chips Ahoy, and then I'll have explosive diarrhea later. That's a child mind. An adult mind is thinking 5, 10, or 15 years down the road, thinking long-term consequences. But to make the rite of passage, it's not based on chronological age. It's based on pain and failure, to the point where the person says, look, I got to navigate my life a little bit more logically, a little bit more rationally. I'm going to try and avoid short-term pain, and I'm going to try and think long-term about all my decisions. So people today think pain is a goblin, but they don't know it's a guardian. So usually people who said no, they're usually simply fully fledged adults who think 5, 10, or 15 years down the road, they had to come face to face with what we call the pain teacher sometime in the past, and sort of made a vow to themselves that they experienced so much pain in their past that they've made a vow, if I can avoid pain by planning my life carefully, that's what I'm going to do. And this is also why the repetitive content of the buffoonish, childish male is Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, because if you can sort of keep these adults of adult age only and give them the repetitive content of childlike thinkers, childlike behaviors, you can keep them in a childlike state. So we've all been told too that pain is a goblin. Like you're not going to finish last in a race. Everybody gets a participation rate. And so the people ruling us know this. If people experience pain, they will become adults. Adults are hard to rule. Adults will not comply most of the time. So this is why they stop the thumbs down on YouTube, stop the thumbs down on many other social media platforms. I think it's back, but it was out for a while. Safe zones at university. No one fails in high school anymore. And the kid that got a participation ribbon for finishing 6th in a race, you just robbed that kid of the pain that might make him the fastest sprinter in the world, where he goes home and says, F this, I'm going to lift weights, I'm going to eat properly, I'm going to go to bed on time, I'm going to hire a coach, I'm going to show them. And that person who never experiences pain will never mature into an adult. And they call it individuation in psychology, where you individuate from the group, like you actually separate mentally, that you're no longer part of the group, you're an individual. For government to exist, you can't have individuals. You need people of adult age that talk, think, and act like children. And again, when you watch a bunch of men run around in tights and experience life through them while you're a rotting carcass on your own couch, this is another thing. The TV is proven to be a hypnosis device. And through what's called mirror neurofiring, the person watching a big player have a successful life, he has the same neurological firing as the player he's watching. So you can make people believe neurologically that they're living life when they're just sitting their arse on the couch.
That's because the brain can't distinguish between what you only thought and what you actually did. And that it's
absolutely.
Jason, when Jesus says, he says, you've heard it said, if you break these commandments, if you sinning at your neighbor, lust after your neighbor's wife, whatever, you've broken the commandments. And he said, but I have a greater one. He said, if you even have thought these things, then you've transgressed, because what we've learned now is the brain can't distinguish between what you just thought about and what you actually did. And there's so much research on that, right? Like I remember one of them being a guy who was a POW during I think it was Vietnam War, and he's practicing his golf game day after day after day in his brain while he's in this prison camp. He gets out after it was like 7 years or something, gets out and he plays a perfect game. It's as though he never missed a beat because his body didn't know that he hadn't physically done the game. He'd been practicing it every day in his head. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's exactly. It's called mirror neural firing. And so anybody watching this game or anybody looking into this hypno box will be getting the neurological impulses that they're catching the pass, winning the big game, being surrounded in victory, when really they haven't had a victory in their entire lives. And basically, without the TV, our need for victory is so intense, we would actually get off the couch and make a life for ourselves if we didn't get fed the fake emotional impulses of victory through the hypno box. So they know how to sedate and tranquilize the human spirit, the human soul, to sit there and just take orders, take their. It's basically a human farm. It's a bee colony. So all the buildings we say are buildings or condos, they're like the apiary bee farmer, little houses for the bees. The bee farmer steals the honey, and our human farmers steal our money. And that's why money and honey are very close to the same, right? Because this is the crop that they're looking to take. And with our money, they take it and they go fight their old wars, their old Egyptian wars in the Middle East. They're really pissed because 3,000 years ago, people kicked them out of the Middle East. Have you noticed all the fighting's in the Middle East because they got some scores to settle? That's what's going on. This is an ancient war. It is a biblical war. And we got to stop sedating and self-gratifying. This group knows how to rule us, Canadians, Americans. They fill the slave camp with coffee, alcohol. In Canada now, marijuana is legal coast to coast. And in British Columbia, Canada, any drug is legal under 2.5 grams. You can go to food trucks that have been converted into drug trucks. You can get fentanyl, you can get heroin, you can get cocaine any time of the day in British Columbia. And they used to look at us as cattle, milk cattle or milking cows. Now they look at us as beef cattle. We have to be very careful. And all these moronic and futile rituals like the Superbowl, if we don't pull out of our comfort coma and this tranquilized stupor, this decay into the pits of hell will continue not only for America, but for other countries as well.
Yeah. So what is your take then on how, and we promised we'd bring this up, even though I hate to, but I mentioned it a little bit ago, the Taylor Swift phenomenon. Like, what are they trying to do psychologically with this? A lot of people, there's a lot of conspiracies out there. One is that they're going to use her to push either whatever Biden is or whatever some other candidate will be, and then use her for that. There's conspiracies that she's a witch, that she is the granddaughter of Anton LaVey, that they're using her for sorcery purposes, witchcraft, that kind of thing. But what is your take on what's going on there and this phenomenon with what's happening with this entity?
Well, the group we're dealing with, their agendas change often depending on what roadblocks they come in, but they know there's lots of eyes on Taylor Swift, right? And the programming, mind control, is through the eye. That's why on the back of your American $1 bill, you have the free floating capstone with the eye in it. And of course, light rays coming out of the eye. You can only program people through their eyes, and they're magicians of the light. And the TV is a light box. So the more eyes on one person, the easier it is to manipulate that person to sort of get your message out. And if you've watched Taylor Swift's concerts, or even Beyonce or U2 lately at the Sphere inside Las Vegas, you will see a whole bunch of subliminal messages inside the performance, which are proven to modify the behavior of anybody watching. So the subliminal messages can be only 1/10 of 1 second. The conscious mind cannot pick it up. But if you slow down a lot of their messages on their big lit backboards, you can see a lot of things are dark and evil, death centric, and it's to negatively affect the psyche and the energy of the people watching. So this group, if you read the book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, everything was death centric, right? Everything was anti-life, anti-children. Yeah. There was a huge basically industry in ancient Egypt about death. They really haven't changed their philosophy. So they like pushing death. And we really have to understand, for us to get out of this, we have to go toward the light. We have to go back to, I'm not a biblical man by any stretch of the imagination, but we really got to go back to the phrases, by their fruits you shall know them. If we can't even process that, I mean, I saw an interview with Bill Gates just yesterday where he said we got to cut all the trees down, and anybody who thinks otherwise is an idiot. And obviously, if this is God's green earth and they want to dispose of everything from the trees to the dogs, the cats, block out the Son of God, we're dealing with ancient forces here, and everybody's got to do this battle in their own house. How moral are you? How ethical are you? What are you doing with your time? Who are you supporting? And we have to learn morality back on our home field before we go out and start lecturing other people.
Do you mind if I take it back to entertainment for just a minute, and this idea of people watching the game, feeling they've accomplished something, but they've literally done nothing? Obviously my world is a lot of parents, a lot of moms are watching right now, and dads, and we're trying to balance all the entertainment with our kids and their social structures and all this kind of stuff. What advice do you have for parents when it comes to, YouTube? I mean, the excessive, it's true. I mean, I'm sitting here just going, darn, like they think these kids, they think they've accomplished something by watching a game. Yeah. They have, clearly they haven't, but what's the balance there? Like or do you see one, or what would you say to parents about that genre of entertainment?
Well, I would just tell them the best defense against mind control through the screen is actually a healthy mind. There are two major parts of the human brain. One's behind the forehead called the prefrontal cortex or frontal lobe, and then there's the limbic system in the back of the brain. If you are unhealthy, the prefrontal cortex is actually inhibited or off altogether. And that means there's only one part of the brain that can be on. It's the limbic system, and it's that system that can be tricked into volunteering for your worst life. So if you sort of want to immunize, for the lack of a better word, immunize your family, yourself, or your children against the repetitive messages that are negative coming out of screen technology, you would have to make sure the healthy brain is active through the healthy food. And when you're healthy, your prefrontal cortex is on. It's known as the CEO of your behavior. It can think long-term. So you want that adult IQ, that adult analysis, the prefrontal cortex up and operating 24 hours a day if possible, so you can bypass all their little mind hacks to make you do negative things. And again, when you poison the metabolism through unhealthy food, the prefrontal cortex is shut off or inhibited and the limbic system is active. The limbic system is low IQ, has no ability to judge long-term consequences, cannot think things through. It only reacts on programs. So make sure you eat properly.
Gosh, I mean, then there's so many things. I mean, and we could sit here and rant about it all, but I mean, not just the television, like you're talking about the screen time, but we've got pharmaceuticals, we've got the jabs, which kids now, as most people know now, I think they just they're upping the jab schedule to over 90. They want your kids to have over 90 different jabs. When I was a kid, it was 11. And even those 11 were totally unnecessary in my humble opinion, but you've got the jabs, you've got the pharmaceuticals, you've got the screen time, you got young kids smoking marijuana and kind of stunting their brain development. And you've got all these things kind of coming against natural growth that should happen in a natural world, should happen organically from eating well and from having a good childhood and stimulating the brain and all that. And so we totally hear what you're saying. And again, kind of piggybacking on Sharona's question, how would we, what are some practical steps? You're saying we want to make sure our kids have a healthy diet for sure. And anything else you'd recommend as far as like just brain, and even for adults too, just brain development. We saw a thing by a brain scientist, Sharona could talk more about it, but just recently saying a certain part of your brain grows and develops when you do things you don't want to do. In other words, when you take yourself out of your comfort zone. Like last time we talked, Jason, I went on a 30-day caffeine fast. Wow. I did not want to do that, but you inspired me to, and I'm really, really glad I did it. But my body said, no, don't do that. And especially the first 8 days, it really kind of apexed on the 8th day was my hardest day, interestingly enough. But after that, everything kind of settled down. But I was a little bit proud of myself. But then I thought, maybe a little bit of my brain grew because I did something I didn't want to do. But anyway, if that question makes sense, what would you suggest there as like brain development or inspiring, healthy kids and adults? Just some practical steps, maybe.
Well, you got to get the right information. And if you go to the USDA food pyramid or the Canada Food Guide, you will not get the, this is all part of farming humans. You recommend things to them that's unhealthy. Because if you're in the ruling position as king, you don't want any strong 6'6", 300-pound linebackers facing you down. You want a whole bunch of trolls is what you want. So if you want the truth on health, there's one book. It's very inexpensive. It's by Paul Chek. And no, you're not going to hear of anybody that's really going to make your life better because it's about repetitive content. They're going to reduce repetitive content that's healthy, increase repetitive content that's not. So don't be surprised if you never heard of this guy's name on purpose. Paul Chek, Chek. He's from California. He runs the Chek Institute. His book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, is the most complete book on health ever written in any time in history. And if you just read it, leave it around the house, follow through the principles, and you don't have to talk to your kids about health because 90% of learning from child to parent is mimicking their behavior. I never had to teach my daughter. I would go down, I'd cook for breakfast, cauliflower, broccoli, chicken, and then I'd make myself a smoothie. And so I didn't have to tell my daughter how healthy it was. She just kept eating it. She thought it was a normal breakfast. And when she'd go sleep over when she was 10, the parents would be baffled when she would ask for cauliflower and broccoli for breakfast. So you can just live it out and your kids will follow through eventually. You can maybe talk about how healthy it is or not. But basically, again, and the prefrontal cortex, which only turns on when you're healthy, guess where morality and free will are housed? They're housed in the prefrontal cortex. And have you noticed the lack of morality? Doctors lying to their patients, doctors euthanizing their patients. And then what about the morality of the God contract we have to protect ourselves? We're not allowed to commit suicide under classical religious foundations. And we're waiting in line to, take pharmakia when the Bible, it says by pharmakia, all nations will be deceived. And we're not processing that because we're brain damaged, because the food is poison, the water's poison. And I know it sounds like a big thing to do, but you don't have to go find Klaus Schwab. You just got to look in your fridge. You got to look in your cupboards. Are you using your mouth as a garbage compactor? Are you destroying the body God gave you? And you're saying you're a Christian. I don't think you're processing what it means to be a Christian.
Wow. I think you're spot on there. It's something we don't like to discuss. We don't like to discuss gluttony. We don't like to discuss food really in Christianity. We really don't. We don't talk about it. And we don't talk about the effect and the impact it's having. I can tell you firsthand from our experience with our kids, and we have 2 that have grown and they're out on their own now. And I mean, you're right. So much of health is caught, not necessarily taught. And they are absolutely doing that. We did get that book that you said, Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And we've had our boys reading that book. And I mean, here's the thing about it. This is what I find, Jason. If it's not like a perfect fit, every single part of it be a perfect fit to what I think life is supposed to look like, people will just throw it out. And we've always said, I think we heard it a long time ago, eat the meat, spit out the bones. There is people who are succeeding in life like you, who are having incredible growth and are, you're healthy, you're doing really, really well. You're a good source to come to for counsel and advice on how to live. And so for that reason, I just encourage people who are saying, well, if it's not from a particular source, I don't want it. It can't be, it doesn't fit my, I don't know what the word is. It's just a very narrow focus. It's a very, if it's not from pastor so-and-so, then I can't take it or I can't use it. Yeah. And especially in our world and the people that we're working with, we need to really look to people who are succeeding and who are doing well. We've watched these practices you're talking about, what we're consuming, both in our mind, our body, our soul, what we're consuming is what we're going to become. And so we've watched this play out even with our two younger boys now. And they really are. They're doing those things you're talking about. They're conscientious of how much water they have every day, if they've taken their supplements, if they've had enough protein, if they've eaten enough vegetables, like they are doing that stuff. And we definitely live it out. I think you can tell so much about what people's lives look like based on the activities of their kids and what they're doing, because they're watching their parents, they're watching us, and then they're emulating that.
Yeah, and I wasn't always healthy. I used to do cocaine, steroids, alcohol, junk food, run with the crowd. I was probably on Team Devil for a very long time. I'm 54 years old today. I do not dye my hair. I do not dye my beard. And you can turn it around at any time. And it's very important that people understand that, it's not an option anymore. It's an obligation. The societies are falling apart. The people ruling us use the weaponry of poison, pharmakia, against us to farm us. That's why it's called pharmakia, because they farm us through poisons, weakening us. It's like that movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix. They can't win a fair fight. And in that movie, at the end of the movie, Russell Crowe, Maximus is up in chains in the bottom of the Colosseum. He has his hands bound. And here comes Commodus, Joaquin Phoenix, the government, right? He's going to fight Maximus on the Colosseum floor. Government knows they can't win a fair fight. So here comes Commodus, the government, and he shanks Maximus under the ribs, punctures his lungs, and Maximus still kicks his ass and kills him. But this is the governing philosophy. Inject them with poison, make them ingest poison, make them drink poison, make them do it themselves through what's called black magic mind control, which I talked about recently at the Greater Reset in Morelia, Mexico, and make them do it to themselves. Make these silly humans feed themselves poison, inject poison into themselves, drink poison, and then we can rule this, this after product of depressed, dysfunctional, diseased, and disoriented animals. We can farm them like animals. So if you want to save your country, it starts with what's in your fridge so that you can get your strength back, work a couple extra hours, keep your house clean, get your matters of your life in order, and you're going to need energy to fight this system. You're not going to get this energy from Twinkies, Cheetos, beer, and pizza. You can only get this energy from the food God produced for you. You have a God machine. It only takes God fuel. And the devil is very good at putting the devil's fuel in your God body to make sure you fall down and can't defend yourself.
I can't believe it's almost been an hour already. Jason Christoff, you make the time go by so fast. I'm so excited you're going to be at CPAC. We're going to see you there.
Yep.
And it's challenging to hear the things you say. You're living it out, though, which is very evident. And it's working. It's working for you.
Working well.
That coffee thing still got me. I'm sorry. I'm working. I got to get.
It's okay. Don't forget, it's about progress, not perfection. When I quit alcohol, it took me 2 years. I used to drink 15 martinis a night when I went out, and it took me 2 years to whittle it down to 0. And then I went 9 years with no alcohol until my friend who owned a bar in Santorini passed away, and his wife phoned and said, he insisted you come tonight and drink like old times. I said, tonight's the night. It's over. So, but then I quit drinking for 7 years after that one night. So, it's about progress, not perfection. And, we don't have a big runway. It's not 1990. We don't have 25 years to get our shit together here. We better do it a bit faster.
Personal responsibility. I'm sure that offended everybody here.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But it good offense.
Something to offend everyone. Yeah.
Yes. I'm sure I said something to offend everybody on the call somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, that personal responsibility bit will really get people. They want to blame genetics, they want to blame their stress, they want to blame their disappointment, their failures in life, their parents, they want to blame their divorce. There's a lot of things that we want to blame to keep us from moving forward and doing what God intended for us to do. So your reality check is, I guess what I would call it, is really necessary right time. I couldn't agree with you more that we watched the movie Bonhoeffer last night. And Jason, I kid you not, we're maybe 20 minutes into the movie, maybe 30 minutes in, and my 10-year-old looks at me and goes, "This reminds me of right now." And I was like that. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh, yeah.
That was when the Gestapo was doing their thing. Yeah, when he said that, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your mission and your education. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. See you at CPAC.
Soon.
We'll see you there. All right. Well,
I
told you we were going to do it to you guys today. And I got to tell you, I am like having a mirror in my face again. I have one right. I got, we just finished, we're almost finished with 40 days.
Yep.
It's like 40 days hard instead of 75 days hard. We did 40. And
yeah, we started January 1st.
Yeah.
Workout every day. It has to be outside workout every day. It could be 2 workouts a day sometimes. A gallon of water a day. Reading 10 pages of a good book. Like can't just be fictional. It has to be like a, kind of a self-help book, spiritual book, biblical related book, something to that effect. Read the Bible every day. And what did I miss? That's
diet.
Like no alcohol. Yeah. And
no alcohol.
Yeah. No alcohol. And you have to follow your diet plan. So you basically can't eat sugar, or, you can't eat the artificial stuff. And you have to, follow your diet plan very closely. So it's been amazing. So it's good timing to hear from him. And it always is very challenging on a personal level. Especially, I really liked what he said there at the end about getting your house in order, get your stuff in order. And, I did a post a number of days ago about, hey, just curious what people are doing on Super Bowl Sunday instead of watching the Super Bowl. And I was really impressed with people saying, like, a lot of people said, hey, I'm going to take that time to clean my closet out. Like literally, they're going to clean their closet. I'm going to clean the whole house. I'm going to deep clean the house, or, and it's so much more fulfilling, very interesting. And you honed in on it too, his idea about us, the brain tricking us that we've won something, when our team wins, and you're like, you haven't won anything, or the brain tricking you that you've done something. And so even replacing that, for us, what I'd like to do, we talked about going into a new spring. We're in this kick right now, at least I am, where we're finding springs whenever we travel. We look up, yeah, you're following me along this path, but we're filling up huge 5-gallon jugs of water at various springs that we find, and we're trying to drink only spring water, not the spring water you buy at the store, the spring water that we go and we get it ourselves from a natural spring. And it's amazing. If you look around, there's lots of springs in every single state. You can go do that. But I would like to do something just as a pushback, because I'm going to be totally honest here. I would love to watch the Super Bowl. I like to watch the NFL. I do. But I've known in years past, it's not a good use of my time. And now I know that, especially with this one, I'm like, there's so much mind manipulation and mind control going on here. So many agendas being thrown at us. And even the kids, my 12 and 10-year-old love to watch the football too, but they're not even into it now. and which is cool. And so we're talking about, well, let's do something different instead, just sort of like as a stiff arm to the system. We're not, we're not coming down on anybody who's watching or whatever, but it's just an example of where we're at right now, and how it is difficult to do uncomfortable things and do things differently, and to not watch things that we're used to watching or whatever. And one of these times, maybe the next time together, we got to bring up that study and play that short video about doing things. What happens to your brain when you do things that you don't want to do? I love that. There's a particular area that you can only grow, a particular area in your brain that you can only grow by doing things that you don't want to do. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, one of my new favorites. I only just found him. He was on Diary of a CEO. I'm telling you, I just think it's such a great educational podcast for sure.
Yeah.
But for those maybe who want to look him up, it's gosh, let's find his name real quick. Sorry. Andrew Huberman. And actually, it was because our friend Dan, who did 40 days with us, who came up with 40 days, actually, he said something about him, and it sounded really interesting. So I went and looked him up. Somehow in all this, I've never heard of him before. He's a neuroscientist, Andrew Huberman. And man, his content is so worthwhile. The guy's so excited about helping people break out of their mental strongholds. And it's really powerful stuff. He is a believer also. He's only come to Christ in the last couple of years, actually, because of his work in neuroscience. And so it's really awesome. He's just got such a great testimony, and he's just wonderful. It's really awesome. So Andrew Huberman, check him out on your next walk outside. Give you somebody to listen to if you need to. But I think we got to roll. We got to wrap it up today. It was a great time. Thank you for that, babe. Thanks for getting Jason on here. That was awesome.
Such a great connection. I just really appreciate what he's doing. And listen, I hope we brought something to offend everybody today. I mean, he got on us about our alcohol, our caffeine, our pop, our television, our Superbowl, our pop stars, all this stuff. So I hope we offended everyone. I'm a little bit offended. But I'm going to work on that. I would take this as an opportunity to not be offended, is what I'll do.
Aren't you reading the book Unoffendable? Aren't you reading that book right now? I am reading that book.
I don't like it, but I'm growing that part of my brain.
You're so offended.
Yeah, I'm offended at the book Unoffendable, but I'm trying to grow that part of my brain that's doing things that I don't want to do. I don't want to read that book. So even if I don't like the content, I'm still doing something I don't want to do. So there you have it.
But you're talking about the book, which is really good, because the other book you weren't even talking about. It was just so worthless. This one bugs you. Yeah. That's a good sign.
It does. Yeah. His style bugs me, the author's style, and some of the content bugs me too. But I'm also getting some really good stuff out of it. I think you just said a little bit ago, eat the meat and throw out the bones. Instead of throwing out everything we don't agree with, like with Jason, you still want to have wine, or you still want to have coffee. Okay, great. I mean, you're not going to change that. Okay. But what are some other things that he said that are stimulating to the brain and that you can do to improve your life? Because we all have. I mean, I'm sitting here right now as we're talking and as we're interviewing and going, man, I need to make my bed. I need to do things, that are a little bit, things that I don't necessarily want to do, but just up my game. So
we can go do that right now after you close us out.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Well, let's all keep our eyes single and our whole body full of light. See you guys next time.